everybody. Welcome to the Underwater Photography Show. As always, I'm Matthew Sullivan.
And I'm Alex Mustard.
And today we have Inspirational Instagram number 16 for you guys. But before we do that, we would like to whine and moan and whinge about Instagram for a bit. So Alex, I'll let you start, and then I will
thank you. Yeah. No, we were talking before we recorded this, and we thought we should really have included it in the episode so we can moan again, but perhaps a little more politely than we were to each other. It's just the changes in Instagram. I think Instagram is probably my favorite social media platform, but I think the direction in recent years just taking it further and further away from photographers. And obviously, photographers are a relatively small part of Instagram's, market these days. But it is a pity because I think when Instagram started, it was a fantastic photographer platform. And the thing we were moaning specifically about is that every time you try and post a picture on Instagram, it says, it says, and I'm sure it says to all of you because it says it to both of us, your picture will get much more reach if you put music with it. And I'm just like, it winds me up having like Instagram basically saying, if you don't put music with your picture, we're not going to show it to as many people. And it's great fun putting music to pictures, but sometimes you just want to be able to share your photography with people and not have to put some, commercially hooking, bit of music with it too. I find that very, very, very frustrating. So I am not putting music with any of my still photos on Instagram, but actually what it's making me do is it's making me post less and less, which is really sad because I'm shooting so much and I'd love to be sharing more pictures, but I just come away depressed about the whole idea.
The thing that I hate about it as well is, and I also don't do it, is when I'm scrolling, for whatever reason, they'll just automatically play that music over whatever picture it is, and it's always just super loud. It doesn't matter what the volume is for anything else on my phone. It's cranked up to 1,000,000 for those Instagram pictures, and inevitably I just get annoyed, and then I don't even look at the picture because I hear the music and I just keep going because I'm tired of hearing
or you just close the app,
or that. So I posted an Instagram story about this relatively recently, and it got a lot of responses, both positive and negative, and positive from my perspective and negative from my perspective, on the whole music to still images thing. And unfortunately, I doubt it's going to go away, but I can still bitch about it when I want to, and I'm still going to bitch about it. But that aside, let's pull up the pictures since that's why everybody's watching this. And as always, I will let Alex do the pronunciations because I'm sure there's a couple in here that will be difficult.
I can manage the first one. As always, I should apologize because all the stuff on my screen blocks the names a lot of the time. But this is a picture by AquaticKeKeith, taken at Nusa Penida off Bali. And it's an aggregation of these stingrays, which is really fascinating behavior. And I just really like the behavior, but I like the fact that the photographer has kind of broken the classic rules of underwater photography of trying to shoot up, and instead has realized that this downward angle is by far the best way to tell this story. I think just the simple composition of all those tails and heads pointing to the middle of the frame, and then you've got this circle of rays with another ray in the middle. It's just a really, really cool shot.
Yeah, it looks like a meeting of the minds among blue-spotted stingrays. And like you said, the simplicity of it. And I've recently, in the last year or so.
Yeah, they're coolie rays, aren't they? Yeah, I didn't see the blue spots on because it's not very big on my screen. Sorry, Matt.
No, I was going to say probably the last year or so, I've really enjoyed the challenge of making compelling top-down images, especially underwater. Topside it's relatively easy with things like snakes or turtles because they're interesting from up above. Shooting things underwater from up above, like you said, it goes against one of the first rules you're taught, which is get low, shoot up. And in this case, he got high and shot down, and I think it works really well. But it's not overly complicated. He just relied on the symmetry of the rays and their arrangement to make a really cool, interesting picture that I think you're right tells a better story than if he had gotten down on their level and tried to shoot across them or something like that. You would lose a lot of what's happening.
Yeah, it works really well. And just to clarify, you weren't casting aspersions of Keith's ability to pass a doping test there.
No.
It is photographic approach.
As I said it, I thought I worded
Yeah.
that poorly, but
Yeah. Let's
not
roll on to the next one swiftly. And some psychedelic colors from Ronny Aaron. And I guess that's I hope that broke underscore underwater photo. With accompanied by Phil Collins with True Colors rehearsal. So on our topic of music, I noticed that the sound has got a big arrow across through it on this one, so you've clearly muted it. This picture, it's a mandarin fish looking resplendent in its colors. I think I mean, looking at this picture, the mandarin fish are beautiful fish, and I think you get to appreciate them more in a photo than in real life, because they dart about, they're hard to see, and I think it's great to celebrate them in a photo. This one, looking at the picture, I think the strobe has very much hit the mandarin fish and the background, and then the mandarin fish has been masked courtesy of subject selection. So there's a little bit of imperfection in that mask, and I think the background has just been darkened a bit, but I think it would have, I'd like a little bit more separation from the background naturally with the lighting. I think would have done more for this shot. But I love seeing the mandarin fish looking so good, and I love seeing the fins all spread out. I think when you do mask, you need to be careful. I mean, I haven't got it very big on my screen, but I can see where its pectoral fin at the back is against the background. You can see how bright the background used to be because he hasn't masked that bit.
What do you think about using a shallower depth of field for something like this, or would you lose too much of the fish?
So what I say to the guys when we do mandarin fish dives on the workshops is, if they're coming up in the water column, shoot them with lots of depth of field. Yeah. If they're not rising high in the water column that night and you're going to have background behind them, shoot with much more open apertures and just nail the eye of the front fish. There's obviously only one here. And that's kind of one of the key bits of advice. And you don't know really before a dive if they're going to be coming way up. I mean, they don't go way up, but, if you're able to get low enough to separate them against black water, in which case you shoot them, F16, that sort of thing. If not, you're often going, F4, F5.6 to blur the background, because sometimes they're literally just in front of the coral doing this. So
yeah, I've only seen them once, and they didn't actually even come out of the coral, so I was not sure how their behavior actually is. But I just liked him being all spread out. I assume it's a him. Yeah. All spread out, and they are beautiful fish. But yeah, I think had I been shooting this, my first instinct would have been to shoot it at a much wider aperture, just to get rid of some of that background.
I do that quite a lot, and a lot of my mandarin fish, spawning shots, if they are shot into the reef, and I don't get to shoot them very much because usually on works, I go to places where there's mandarin fish a lot, but on the workshops, everyone wants to do mandarin fish. And so I don't get to go because we always limit the number of photographers every night. And I'll go if the number of people wanting to go drops down, so there's a space for me, but I wouldn't take a space that a guest would want to go on. And so I very, very rarely get to shoot them. But a lot of my mandarin fish shots, I think, like the tails don't look as nice as a tail in this shot because I tend to shoot them too open on aperture because I'm more worried about the annoying background. Whereas this one, because it's shot with more depth of field, I think the tail looks fantastic because it's nicely, you can see all the detail all the way down the body. You can see the detail in the tail. So, you improve the background, but you make the fish worse. And I've usually gone down the the latter route of making the fish worse. I usually go down that route of improving the background but losing a bit on the fish. But I like this shot because the fish looks so good. So I got there in the end. Right, moving on to Underwater Pat, and a photo from Greenland. I'm not going to pronounce the
I was hoping you would try.
Okay, well, it's AquaticKeKeith. In Greenland. I don't know if that's right, but I do know that it's a lion's mane jellyfish, split level, and I think this is a spectacular location. I think that the jellyfish is very, very beautiful. And I think the background is a very, very high, glacial valley, or, glacial edge. So you've got the kind of classic U-shaped glacial valley, with the big, straight escarpment. And it makes for a really dramatic background. I think the link between the two halves is yes, these two things are right next to each other, but I don't find it so compelling story-wise. It's just, this thing is here. But maybe that's a little bit harsh. Maybe it's just the fact that background is a bit straight on. If there was a valley leading your eye to the background, or a little bit more depth in the above water, because the underwater bit doesn't have a lot of depth. So I really like the shot, but I feel that there might be a better opportunity around, just because the top side lets me down a bit. The underwater bit has to be like this, and it's a very beautiful lion's mane. It's got all its tentacles out. It's swimming. It's really, really cool. The above water, I think, is not as nice as the underwater.
Do you think a vertical composition would help to give the mountain a bit more breathing room on top?
I like that it fills the frame. I think a lot of my split levels I would add exactly the same criticism to, is that the mountain is perfectly in the frame. It's a really good top for the picture, but it's not very involving. There's not much going on up there. It's just a hill or a mountain, and obviously that's what it's like there. You're not going to have, to quote John Cleese, herds of majestic wildebeest, running to the top of the frame. But I just think visually, I if I was shooting this, I'd go, yeah, this is good, but I need to find more in that background. I need a valley going away from me, or a tree hanging over. It's very one-dimensional background. And because the underwater bit is one-dimensional as well, but I love the underwater bit. You've got to hunt for that top side that's really going to be compelling, because there's nothing really to visually enjoy in the top side. You wouldn't put the top side up and say, here's a nice landscape photo. It's just,
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's kind of where I'm going. And it's only because the underwater bit, but I still really like it as a shot, and it's really good. Just as a general comment, about split levels, I think, as underwater photos. And that's why it's so hard to take really, really good split levels, because you've not only got to get it technically right, like this shot does, and you've got to have great subject matter, right near the surface and all those things. And you've got to manage the exposure, which would have been very difficult in dark waters like these on a cloudy day. But at the same time, you need to find the visual appeal above water, which is not easy. This is perfectly successful, but I think you could have, the challenge is to take it up a notch from here.
I will say, if anybody's ever looking for free lip filler, and it's that temporary free lip filler, swim face first into one of these lion's manes, and I can promise you it will work.
Yeah. I've not seen many jellies this summer, apart from the other week on the beach here, where we had loads of them wash in. But I might try and do some jelly photography in the coming days. Right. Cuteness overload, I'd say. This one is, wait a second, move this way.
It's by Bobte.
Bobte and Blackwater Cozumel, from Cozumel in Mexico. And it is a juvenile porcupine fish, but it is just a perfect one, isn't it? It's just such a cute pose, great eye contact, really, really nice little creature. And just one of those Blackwater shots. Everyone it's a crowd pleaser, isn't it?
Yeah, it's perfectly symmetrical. Double eye contact. The mouth is open, and from what he has told me, like the larval ones like this almost immediately puff up. Like as soon as they realize they've been spotted, they puff up. So it's not like somebody's in there poking them or prodding them. It's just their first reaction to being seen is to inflate. And a friend found one on a Blackwater here recently, and it did the exact same thing. As soon as he swam up to it, it puffed up, and then just kind of bobs around as they do until it deflated eventually.
Yeah, well, it would make sense that the smaller you are in the ocean, the more things that can eat you, and it would make sense that if, as a species, you had one big great survival strategy, that you'll be using it a lot more when you were little. So that
Yeah.
makes sense that the small ones are, and much more inclined to go like the one is it in Finding Nemo where you like every time he gets
Yeah,
scared.
he pops up and then rolls away.
Yeah. Right. Now we move on to Yazid dot Shari and extra underscore divers underscore Quantab. And this is a very beautiful blue Blenny looking out from the coral in Bandar Kairan in Oman. So an area you don't see a lot of photos from. And I think this species is a very handsome Blenny with these colours. Really nice pose. I like the coral textures as well. I think probably this one, particularly on Instagram, could do with being cropped a little bit. I really like the Blenny, and I really like those two swirly circles to the side of it.
Yeah.
And I think the very edges of this would benefit, particularly on Instagram, just slightly tighter crop around this. Then those three features of Blenny and the two circly bits would really dominate the frame, the composition.
I would have to see it cropped, but I think I would probably agree. But I really like the offset composition, and I like the fact that again he has largely double eye contact, and the two little fins doing this thing really accentuates it because it looks like he's just standing there upright. You can almost picture them as legs. That's all. That's the extent of the fish is those two little legs and that big head. But the coral texture is beautiful as well. And like you said, it's a place that you don't see a lot of underwater images come out of. So it gets kind of bonus points for that, just for being somewhere unusual.
Yeah, and also, you often get these, you get pictures of Blennies in holes. And there are certain species of Blennies that are very heavily photographed, even certain individuals, particularly the ones in Analau, that are very heavily photographed. So you tend to see combinations of certain species on very specific backgrounds, often because it's the same Blenny, or that particular Blenny favours that particular habitat. So to see a different species of Blenny and a different species of coral is really nice. This one is by Daniel Bautello, photographer, who I think last time he was on, we were commenting that we didn't know he was doing much anymore, so it's nice to see. And a picture of a great white shark split level. This one, I'm only seeing it relatively small, but it's a very dramatic pose, but I'm not 100% convinced how sharp it looks, but it may just be because it's small.
I think he reduces the image sharpness before he posts things online. And I apologize. Naya's been sound asleep, and now she's being rambunctious under the bed behind me.
All right.
With her. But he's been doing a lot of Shark Week stuff in South Africa, and doing. I guess they've been able to do it cageless, which is a dream of mine to be able to do. So I don't know if he was in the water photographing this, or if he was hanging off a boat for this shot. But I know they have been in the water, at the surface with the great whites, which is just epic. But also, like, this is one of those images where not only can you see all of the business end of a great white, sorry, but it also looks kind of cute because it's got that big eye. It looks like it's smiling. It's got the big goofy nose. Just a and like I said, it's a dream to do this cageless.
No worries. Matt, if you want to, when she settle back down again, no, leave it on because I'm going to edit this bit out, and then when she sets it back on, I'll edit it back in. Because it was really coming through sound wise. So
okay.
So if you just say, but also looks a bit cute, I can just cut it in and then talk about the fact about being a dream to do it cageless.
Yeah. But also it looks kind of cute because it has that big goofy grin, that huge eye, and that overly emphasized nose in this picture.
Yeah.
So it's a mixture of intimidation and adorableness. But it's also a dream for me. Like, this would be bucket list number one if I thought it was realistic to do great whites cageless. And short of just getting lucky. I'm not sure how feasible that is, but as I said, I'll keep dreaming, and maybe one day it'll happen. And
I
I'll get
think
to.
it's I think it's sad as well that we do seem to see a lot less photos of them than we used to. When Guadalupe was running, it was there was there were so many pictures of great whites coming every year, and then South Africa lost the Cape Town great white shark opportunities because of the orcas moving into that area, forcing the great whites to relocate. And South Australia, there's only really one operator there. There's kind of it's not a year-round season as far as I understand. So you don't see tons and tons of pictures like you used to. And, for basically the most famous fish in the sea, it is nice to be seeing some new images of it. So yeah, really, really cool to see. Right. Now we've come on to Dej Bordin, and an available light picture of sea fans in a cave. And I have to say, I really like this shot because it feels to me just about every underwater photographer I know would get stuck into these sea fans, shoot them with flash, get the pop of color, and still have, really moody light in the background. And it just seems really unusual to see someone shoot it, as a silhouette like this, but then to restore the color. And I think it's really effective, really atmospheric, and really different. I wonder what the rest of the pictures in the series were like, because there's one of 4 here.
Should have looked, but of course I didn't. But atmospheric is the perfect word to describe it, I think. And it gives you a sense of, I think it gives a better sense of what it was probably like to see this like in person. Because as we all know, the water, especially being in a cave, you would lose a lot of that light unless you put strobes or a lot of that color unless you put strobe back on. But this, because it's backlit, it looks like it's probably backlit by video lights or something like that, which I think gives a really nice touch. You get a much better idea, I think, of what it would be like to be there, which is always something I think is commendable in an image. If you get to put somebody into what it actually feels like to be in that spot. And I think this one does that really well. And then it has the light beam come through as well. You see the crinoid and the different colored sea fans, and you can see all the details and the veins in the sea fan, which I think is really cool. That would be lost a bit if you strobe lit it.
Well, we always talk about sea fans being, one of the best background features in underwater photos. When you're shooting underwater scenery, you're looking for sea fans, particularly to use in the background. Because they look so good backlit. If you have the sun streaming down the reef and you have a sea fan sticking out into it, it will glow in the background of a picture and really create a fantastic background element. But this is kind of taking that and just taking that visual appeal and turning it up, several notches. It's really, really effective. So very nice image. Right. And now we come to Shallow Seas Gallery and two little what are the name of these crabs that live in the sea?
Flame box crabs.
Box crabs, yeah, 2 box crabs in the seabed, but shot under fluorescent light or shot with fluorescent lighting to highlight their colors. And what I like about them is you get that really interesting green glow, but there's some really interesting orange particularly on the lower crab, which I'm guessing is a female being guarded by a male. And I really like how that orange comes through. I think that you could probably just do with a little bit more processing as it looks on my screen. I recognize very quickly what I'm looking at. You do as well, Matt. But I think probably someone who's not so familiar, I think the top of the top crab needs to be a bit brighter and a little bit more work around the eyes just to help someone who's not as familiar with the subject matter to really understand what they're seeing here. Because it looks really cool and it looks very alien and ghost-like. With the green color, looks like, sort of a Ghostbusters ghost a bit. And I really like that aesthetic. I think also it needs a tighter crop. This needs to be in your face. But I really like it. I've not seen a fluorescent shot of this species before. And I think it works very well.
Yeah, and it's cool. These box crabs most of the box crabs we have are, that size. These guys can be, like that. Probably 7 or 8 inches across. I can't actually see any orange on this, so it just looks all green to me. But it's a really cool picture. A, that he got this crab fluorescing, and then B, that he got them mating or a mated pair. That is really
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, it's the male guarding the female. But I agree, tighter crop would work. And I think the brightening the tops of probably both shells, and like you said, making the eyes pop a bit would do wonders for it.
Yeah.
But Gabe's been putting out some really cool. He's been playing with the backscatter fluoro system, and getting some really cool things. And he's sending me pictures of stuff that I had no idea fluoresced, which is also really cool. So it's been fun to watch what he's gotten. But this might be my favorite thing so far, just because, if you crop this a lot and had it, in your face, I think it'd be a really, really cool picture.
Yeah, very cool. Right.
Last one though.
Oh, that was our last one. Yeah. Right. So I'll bring us back up. Well, thanks for watching that episode. I hope that you enjoyed seeing those pictures as much as I do. And we'll be back again soon with another episode of the Underwater Photography Show really soon. Bye-bye.